Persian Empire, a city of gold and marble stood as the center of the known world. King Darius the Mede sat upon a throne that commanded the destinies of millions. His empire was vast, divided into 120 provinces, each governed by a satrap. Above these satraps were 3 high officials, and the most exceptional among them was Daniel. Daniel was a man out of time. A captive brought from Jerusalem as a youth, he had survived the fall of Babylon and the rise of the Persians. He was now an old man, but his mind was as sharp as a polished blade, and his spirit remained untainted by the corruption of the court. While other officials spent their days calculating how to siphon wealth from the king's coffers, Daniel's hands were clean. He possessed what the scriptures call an excellent spirit. But in the corridors of power, excellence is often a target. The other presidents and satraps watched Daniel with eyes narrowed by jealousy. They hated his influence. They hated that a foreigner, a worshiper of an unseen god, held such sway over their king. They began a clandestine investigation, a political witch hunt, to find a flaw in his administration. They combed through his ledgers, questioned his servants, and tracked his every move. Yet they found nothing. No bribery, no negligence, no hidden agendas. Daniel was a man of such integrity that his life was a mirror reflecting their own darkness. Finally, they realized the truth. They could never defeat Daniel on the grounds of law or politics. They had to weaponize his own heart. "We shall not find any ground for complaint against this Daniel," they whispered in the dark, "unless we find it in connection with the law of his God." The conspirators understood the psychology of power. They knew that Darius, while a capable ruler, possessed the common frailty of monarchs: vanity. They approached the throne with a display of exaggerated loyalty, bowing low as they presented a proposal that seemed to honor the king's supreme authority.
"O King Darius, live forever!"
they proclaimed. They suggested a new decree to unify the empire, a month-long festival of national devotion. For 30 days, no one in the entire kingdom was permitted to petition any god or man except the king himself. To do so would be considered an act of treason, punishable by the most horrific death imaginable, being cast into the den of lions. Darius, flattered by the idea of being the sole mediator between heaven and earth for a month, did not see the trap. He did not ask why such a law was necessary. He simply took his signet ring, pressed it into the soft wax, and signed the decree. Under the law of the Medes and Persians, once a king's edict was sealed, it was irrevocable. It was no longer just a word. It was an unstoppable force of nature. When the news of the decree reached Daniel, he understood immediately that his death warrant had been signed. He knew the men who had written it, and he knew the king had been deceived. In such a moment, most men would have negotiated. Daniel could have prayed in secret, in the quiet of his heart, where no spy could hear him. He could have closed his shutters and pretended to comply while keeping his faith private. But Daniel knew that faith that hides in the face of fear is a faith that has already lost its power. He walked to his house, an old man with a steady gait. He went upstairs to his chamber, where the windows opened toward the ruined city of Jerusalem, the city of his fathers and the site of God's temple. There, in full view of any who cared to watch, he did exactly what he had done 3 times a day for his entire life. He knelt, he prayed, he gave thanks to his God. He did not pray for the king to die, nor did he pray for a rebellion. He simply acknowledged that there is a king higher than Darius, and a law more ancient than the Medes. The spies, hiding in the shadows across the street, smirked. They had him. The officials hurried back to the palace, their voices dripping with false concern. "Did you not sign a decree, O king, that anyone who makes petition to any god or man for 30 days, except to you, shall be cast into the den of lions." "The thing is true," Darius replied, "according to the law of the Medes and Persians, which cannot be revoked." Then they sprang the trap. "That Daniel, one of the exiles from Judah, pays no attention to you, O king, or the injunction you have signed, but makes his petition 3 times a day." In that moment, the king's heart sank. He realized he had been used as a tool to murder his most loyal friend. Exceedingly displeased with himself. For the rest of the day, until the sun began to dip below the horizon, Darius labored to find a legal loophole. He called his advisors, his jurists, and his priests. He looked for any way to bypass his own law, but the conspirators stood firm, reminding him that a king's word is his bond. To break the law would be to forfeit the throne. As twilight turned to ash, the king was forced to give the order. The lion's den was a place of visceral terror, a deep stone pit where the air was thick with the scent of musk, old bones, and the low guttural vibration of predators. Daniel was brought to the edge. There was no trial, for the law had already spoken. Before Daniel was cast down, the king looked at him. In a voice trembling with a strange, newfound hope, Darius said, "May your God, whom you serve continually, deliver you." Daniel was thrown into the pit. A massive stone was rolled over the mouth of the den, sealing the light away. The king pressed his signet ring into the clay seal, ensuring that no one could interfere. The world's power had done its worst. That night, 2 different stories unfolded. In the palace, the king lived in a self-imposed hell. He refused food. He banished the musicians. He lay awake in the dark, haunted by the image of the old man being torn apart by beasts. The palace, with all its luxury, felt like a tomb. But in the pit, the atmosphere was different. The lions, creatures of instinct and hunger, approached the figure in the dark. But as they neared, a light not visible to human eyes filled the cavern. An angel of the Lord stood in the midst of the beasts. With a touch, the angel shut the lions' mouths. The predators became as docile as lambs. Daniel, the man who had served God in the palace, now served him in the pit. He was not a victim. He was a guest in a divine sanctuary. He likely spent the night in the same posture he had held at his window, in prayer and peace. At the first light of dawn, the king raced to the den. He did not wait for his retinue. He ran, breathless, to the stone and cried out in a voice of anguish, "Daniel, servant of the living God, has your God, whom you serve continually, been able to deliver you from the lions?" He expected silence. He expected the grisly evidence of his failure. Instead, a calm, resonant voice echoed from the depths of the earth. "O king, live forever. My God sent his angel and shut the lions' mouths, and they have not harmed me, because I was found blameless before him. And also before you, O king, I have done no harm." The king was overjoyed. He ordered Daniel to be lifted out immediately. When Daniel emerged into the morning sun, the court was stunned. There was not a scratch on him. Not a tooth had grazed his skin. Not a claw had torn his robe. His safety was not a matter of luck. It was a testament to a power that governs the physical laws of the universe. The ending of the story is one of fierce justice. The men who had plotted Daniel's death, who had used the law to craft a murder, were brought to account. They were cast into the same pit they had prepared. Without the divine protection that covered Daniel, they met the end they had intended for him. King Darius then issued a new decree, but this one was different. It didn't demand worship for himself. It commanded that in all his royal dominion, people should tremble and fear before the God of Daniel. He wrote, "For he is the living God, enduring forever. His kingdom shall never be destroyed, and his dominion shall be to the end. He delivers and rescues. He works signs and wonders in heaven and on earth. He who has saved Daniel from the power of the lions. The story of Daniel tells us that the lions of this world, be they political oppression, social isolation, or personal crises, are real. The pits are deep, and the laws of men can often be cruel. However, Daniel's life proves that there is a courage that transcends the fear of death. It teaches us that integrity is the ultimate shield. Daniel survived the lions not because he was strong, but because he was faithful. He did not fight the king. He did not argue with the satraps. He simply looked toward Jerusalem and kept his heart aligned with the truth. When you find yourself trapped by circumstances designed to destroy you, remember that the same God who walked the halls of the Persian palace also stood in the darkness of the pit. The mouths of lions are still subject to the word of the Creator, and even the darkest night is but a prelude to a dawn where the truth will finally be spoken aloud. Faith is not the absence of the pit. It is the presence of the angel in the midst of it.